Real Madrid win 3-1, 6-3 in the overall aggregate score, and it could have been more. Madrid dominated from beginning to end. I mean, it took 4 minutes for them to come in. I mean, Raul Asensio is looking like a stud as far as a central defender. He was tremendous today. He was just outstanding in the back. Real Madrid were flawless. I mean, just so you have a bit of context in terms of what I'm saying, make it more tangible instead of me raving about Real Madrid. Uh, all right, I have a white shirt on, but that was just coincidence. When Real Madrid faced this City side in the first half, City only shot once in the first half. Once. And it was Madrid really setting the tone, setting the pace of the game, and really changing things as soon. Many were looking to see what happened, and you see the need of an Erling Haaland, the presence of an Erling Haaland making a difference. I mean, as much as Omar Marmoush had a great week or a great weekend against Newcastle, another thing is facing Real Madrid, and he really didn't do too much. And same thing with Savinho. They weren't able to get the ball frequently in the first half. Madrid were able to interrupt properly. They were able to foul whenever they had to. They're able to intercept in transition. Every time Madrid goes on transition, it ends up being like a half a goal. It ends up being, well, defenses and the opposing team and the opposing team's fans end up having a lump in their throat because you never know what's going to happen. That's how, in a way, that second goal ends up being produced because the ball comes into the middle. Rodrigo, who was basically, I was listening to commentary from South America saying Rodrigo ends up being the silent partner in all of this that ends up developing. And if there was a player that deserved a goal outside of Mbappe, it ended up being Rodrigo. And he comes, recovers the ball in the middle, starts to play going forward. He ends up getting the ball right back from Vinicius, who ends up making a charging run. Rodrigo ends up poking the ball, I guess for lack of a better term. He ends up moving the ball, cutting through, finding Mbappe 2-0. And that basically, if the first goal wasn't proof that the series was done, well, the second one had to be definitely in. If it wasn't that, it was the third. But for the most part, a Madrid side that going forward, everybody's saying how top heavy a team they are. Yeah, they are top heavy. But it's a wonderful thing to see now because now you're seeing players move from one end to the other. They're not so static, and it's just like, well, I'm here, you're here, he's there. No, you see Vinicius every so often moving into the middle and moving into the right. Rodrigo doing the same. Jude Bellingham shifting in the middle. You see Mbappe moving from side to side because he by default ends up being the number 9. You end up seeing a lot of that every so often. Federico Valverde, who I have to absolutely rave about. Love Federico Valverde. He plays as a 4, he plays as a 7, he plays as an 11, he plays as a 6, he plays as whatever position you play Federico Valverde in. Not only is he willing to do it, is he able to do it, he does it at a very high level. To me, the most underrated footballer in the world. I don't know if I'd start a team with him, but he'd be up there in terms of the players that I have to have on my team in order to build a top quality competitive side. But I can't say more about him. Just the question mark was out there. Can he do it in big games? Well, today he did it. Shut a lot of mouths. Keep in mind, this is the same Mbappe who's having trouble adapting to Madrid. And now, I think coming in, it was 30, now 32 goals that he's been involved in throughout his time at Real Madrid, which says a great deal. Yeah, he's there. He's adapted. He's fully there. And it's been important in terms of what he's been able to do. Tchouaméni, another solid performance as well. I mean, there were many players that I can say that ended up playing solidly. Very few players from Madrid say, "Oh, they underwhelmed." I can't think of any, to be quite honest. I can't think of a player that played poorly for Real Madrid today. They just executed better. They were able to kill off the match. They were able to do everything Real Madrid was supposed to do, compared to City. To me, this was one of the poorest coach matches for Pep Guardiola. Not because of what he had available, not because of what he put out on the pitch. It just seemed that at one point he just threw in the towel. He basically quit. Is it a bad thing? Well, not really, because at a certain point you end up saying, well, okay, well, we'll have to fight another day. it wasn't in the cards for us to win Champions League. Well, let's see if we can do something else. Let's see what we can do, and let's see how we can end the season in the most positive way going forward, which now they'll be able to do. And to me, that ends up being, in terms of a positive for this season, yeah, a positive amongst many negative things that have happened to City, yeah. Is it unfortunate? Yeah. But what I also heard in the commentary today, and I tend to agree, there's a question that you have to ask yourself. Is it the end of an era or the beginning of a reconstruction? Is it the beginning of a new era, or is it the end of an old era or the beginning of a new reconstruction? Because Marmouche and of course you look at other players, Haaland when he's healthy, you see players that are one or two steps slow over at City now. John Stones ends up being a little bit slower. Ruben Diaz maybe slowing down a little bit. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne out. Rodri, I don't know how he's going to come back when he ends up recovering from his knee injury. Who knows how he's going to be? Although he should come back in pretty good form. Savinho, that's another one. So there's a lot of question marks for City going forward in terms of the medium to long term. In terms of the Liverpool Aston Villa match, and of course I had to see one and the other and kind of focus on what was going on. An expected result. Aston Villa hadn't lost in, I believe, 13 matches away from or over at Villa Park, and Liverpool hadn't lost away from home. So something was going to give, and when these two clashed, basically somewhere in the middle. So it ends up being a almost justifiable draw because Daniel Matlin almost scores in the end, in the very, very, very last touch of the ball. That ball just goes right by the post. But overall, it's one of those encounters that saw a Liverpool team having a lot of trouble against Aston Villa. Aston Villa playing at the height of their powers this season, because right now, I mean, when they had Liverpool in front, you thought at one point, because of the mistake that was made by Aston Villa's defense, the ball that comes into the middle to Diogo Jota, he finds Mohamed Salah, makes it 1-0. You thought that, okay, I don't know if the match is over, but the scales are tilted in favor of Liverpool. Something might happen, but defensively, Liverpool have shown certain liabilities in certain moments, especially in recent weeks. That ends up being a problem for Liverpool, is not only do Aston Villa equalize, they also take the lead. And give credit to Villa. They consistently, I mean, despite being down, they continue going forward. Unai Emery had a very well-designed structure in terms of what he wanted his team to do. Yeah, okay, fine. The second goal comes in courtesy of Trent Alexander-Arnold, but for the most part, I mean, there's really not much else to say, and really not much else to say in terms of what both teams were able to do. They were able to counter each other. They were able to attack each other's weaknesses. They were able to really inflict harm whenever they could. So it ends up being a valuable point. Now, like I've said it before, this is a very crucial week for Liverpool, because not only do they play Aston Villa, they're playing a now very wounded Manchester City, a Manchester City with blood in their eye, and a Manchester City with also very little to lose at this stage of the season, because now their objective is to be as high in the table as possible, currently fourth in the Premier League. So going over and playing City is going to be a very interesting encounter for a Liverpool side that know that if they do end up not getting a win now, then it puts Arsenal back in a position where they can be favorable. Now, I'm saying this in the short term, because obviously the amount of matches they've had. Now, I'll even add I'll front load this with the Merseyside derby, with everything that occurred this weekend, and still being able to get the victory. But if they get 2 points out of these two matches, and then Arsenal end up getting the full complement of points, well, it changes the league a little bit until the end of March and the beginning of April, when Arsenal have a tough stretch of their own. So it's not the end of the world if they end up seeing Arsenal catch up to them, but it's not something that ends up being very comfortable, knowing that they have to depend on other results. They have to depend on themselves and solely themselves when it comes to this result. So again, we'll have to see what happens during the weekend, because for Liverpool, that City match can end up being a turning point in their season that's been otherwise, and for the most part, an extremely successful one. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I bid you adieu. It's been an interesting day of football. And let me know what you think. Let me know what else you want to talk about. Let me know what else you would like to see on this channel, as we'll have a lot going on in the coming weeks and months. All right, talk to you soon.